Talking automobiles. Wow, that sounded kind of old farty, didn't it? Driving Miss Daisy. Let's talk about it.
Hey, let's go.
We're talking about cars. What are we seeing for trends in 2012?
So for trends for 2012, there are a number of trends, but for me personally, it's just more voice recognition.
Absolutely.
You know, I appreciate what Ford is doing with Ford Sync. I appreciate what OnStar is doing. I lean a little more towards Ford because of the whatever I think they call the infotainment system,
Hmm.
where you can just pop in there with the phone with your MP3 player, and navigation. It speaks to you, you speak to it, and I really think we're going to see more and more of that, specifically in more and more Ford vehicles today. It's a powerful feature, right? I mean, we're so, as human beings, we're so used to having to, giving commands and accepting commands. I really think that we'll see that more and more this year.
I agree
Um,
with that. I think that voice recognition technology is huge. Anything that can get the driver to stop being distracted, right,
yeah.
from what they have to do. For instance, I was in my car today and I got a phone call, and I have a sync with Bluetooth sync with the car, and I was
Mhm.
able to answer the call and hang up the
Good.
call with
Yeah.
using the controls on the steering wheel. And that's phenomenal, because in my old car I would have had to go and check, because you know what, you're always going to check your phone if somebody's
Mhm.
calling you. You always check, because God forbid it's something really important, or you don't want to get the nagging wife syndrome where I called you 3 times and you never called and it was really really important. So fine, so you have to
Yeah.
check it. So that's pulling it out, looking at
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So
You know what? And not for nothing. I mean, not I hate to say it, but I'm guilty of that. And when I'm driving, get a phone call, I'll put the phone out, and I'll do one of these things, right? I'll put the phone right in front of my face, so
right.
it looks like at least that I'm looking at the road, looking at my phone. I know. I apologize. I'm being incredibly stupid by doing that. I know that for a fact.
Right.
Um, there's no excuse for that. But it's to me, it's annoying as well to pull the phone out and to look stuff up. It's really annoying. I would really appreciate, I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a car that does that. My car is a little older. So, and I love that. And if I could say, call mom, call Jesse, from receiving a phone call, even if it'll speak a text message to me and I
Right.
can reply back to that text message through voice, that's
Absolutely.
also key. I don't think anybody could do that today. I know,
Well, Ford
I think
Sync does that to some degree.
Ford does it text back.
Text
I know it'll read a
It'll read
text
it
to
to
you.
you. I don't know
Right.
if, other than, and I've been using Siri through my car, so
Okay.
you can kind of do it that way
Okay.
as well. But yeah, and it's what's
Yeah.
nice about it is even though you still have to touch the button on the iPhone to do it, it's
Right.
only one. There's only one button, right? So
Okay.
you could touch
Okay.
it, you launch Siri, and then you talk through the car. So
That's very
that's one
cool.
way I do it.
That's still pretty awesome. I mean, and one thing that came out of CES last week was the fact that OnStar's working with, I believe, Verizon. I'm pretty sure it's Verizon
They're one of their partners,
on
yeah.
their 4K. I'm sorry, on their 4G LTE network. So essentially, you'll have a 4G hotspot in your car.
Right.
And so that's the next iteration of what we're experiencing with being mobile, right?
True.
I mean, how many times have I been in my car with my son, and he has the iPad, and we don't have a 3G iPad, and he wants to launch an application that connects to the internet to download content. Well, he can't because we don't have a hotspot. We have
Hmm.
the AT&T 3G hotspot, which sucks. But what if we had that 4G in the car? I mean, that's huge. And
Absolutely.
just for the entertainment factor alone, let's say you have a couple of kids in the, like yourself, you have a couple of kids in the car. You just give them an iPad or a DS, DS Lite or whatever the case might be. They can connect to the internet and they can play their games or do whatever.
Right.
That is really, really
And,
awesome.
and also, one of the things that came out was OnStar starting to open their APIs to
That's
developers,
huge.
which
That's
is
huge.
great. Their first partner with Relay Rides, which is a service basically that allows you, when you're not using your car, to kind of loan out your car, I guess at fee, to people who need rides. So they'll go and borrow the car and do whatever they have to do, come back, and so that way they can, using their iPhone, unlock and lock the car to be able to access the ride, and they know where it is. So there's a lot of very interesting stuff coming out from on.
And the fact that OnStar is pretty much allowing third-party developers to gain access to their applications, so they can build better services around OnStar is massive.
Absolutely.
Massive. I mean, listen, OnStar is a great company. They do wonderful work. But their resources are limited into what they can do. They have a pecking order of things they can do. Probably a priority list of like 1 to 100,000.
Right.
But if I open this API up to other developers that can add some additional functionality to make services that much better in my car, especially if you have a hotspot built into your car. Wow, look out, man.
Absolutely.
That is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and along the same lines, the next of the, I guess there are basically 5 topics. The next one was simpler infotainment controls, meaning this is one of my pet peeves with auto manufacturers, and I know that a lot of thought goes into laying out cabins for the driver. I know when you went up to Dearborn, you got a whole run through just people going in and out of the vehicle. So that was
pretty impressive. I mean, there's an entire science, and this is when I went to Ford. There's an entire science of how people get out and into the car.
Right.
And they have these people just completely laid out with all these sensors on them. And the computer watches how you get in and out of the car. And depending on that, they build the cabin around the average person getting in or out of the car. So that was pretty impressive. But you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. So currently I drive the 2012 Odyssey. And I'll tell you, I like the Odyssey a lot. The one thing I hate about the Odyssey is just how far I have to reach in order to get to some of the controls, because I don't know if they designed it, with a 5'2" woman in mind, but as a 6 foot tall man, I'm, even with long arms, I'm reaching forward in order to get some controls that are not on the stock of the wheel. So that type of stuff, the people who really did it right all along were Saab. Saab was one of the first to really understand how to shape the consoles around the driver. But this is one of my things. So I think over the next coming months, the next part of it is like Nissan, for example. Nissan, for example, tries to make a very uniform button look. So every button looks exactly the same. And when you're driving at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, I don't drive at 80 miles an hour, but no, never.
Not in the minivan.
But yeah, no. So when you're driving FS, you don't have time to look at all the little chiclets to determine which they're exactly the same. So that type of stuff needs to be worked out. I think focusing on the first, which is voice control, is the better way to go. And then the secondary is to do the knobs and stuff. That's true.
I completely agree. And there are other things too, that smaller things or what have you. You have the automatic stop start in some cars, right? So
that is huge.
This is when you're driving your car, you stop at a light or you stop at a stop sign, the engine will turn itself off, and then when you go to the light turns green, you hit the gas and the engine turns on and it goes.
Right.
I don't know much more of the technology than that, but to me that sounds like a massive gas consumption.
It definitely is. I know when I drove when I drove the Prius, that happens. So you come to the light, you sit, the engine turns off, and then when you press on the gas, it either immediately turns on if you really slam down on the gas, or it'll wait until you get to a certain need, and then it'll turn on the engine. But you don't feel it. You don't feel it. The weird thing is when you're at the stoplight, it's quiet and it's just odd.
You're just like
something wrong, right?
It just happened.
But this is very interesting because Richard Branson had this idea with Virgin Airways, because he said a lot of fuel is just wasted, planes just sitting on the tarmac.
Idle, sure.
So this technology, this need, and we do need it, is especially in rural areas where it's a lot of stop and go traffic, or there's just traffic, dead stop traffic. LA is a perfect example. This would save tons and tons and tons of oil and fumes, exhaust. So that's a great technology. I hope
Okay.
it
So
continues.
you're not really expending more gas. You're actually
Right.
saving gas. You're saying. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I was completely wrong.
Right. No.
I'm thinking you actually spend more
Oh, no, no.
gas.
What happens basically is you either through regenerative braking or plug-in hybrid or whatever it is, it gets your battery and then runs the internal components on that battery at idle. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
as soon as you turn on the accelerator, it either still uses the battery or then turns on the
Okay.
engine
So I
immediately.
take it all back then. This sounds like great
Oh, it's
technology.
fantastic. Yeah.
This is pretty awesome. Okay.
Um,
Another great technology we should see more and more this year for 2012 is more
yep.
airbags. More airbags. I know, for example, Ford has a child restraint system. So, God forbid you are in a car accident. What happens is that there's an airbag in the child restraint system. So it actually explodes,
Hmm.
it blows up, and it actually cushions the child, in a car accident, which is pretty incredible. I've seen it a few times and it works fairly nicely. And I understand too, they're working on airbags for your knees and for other parts of your body as well. So we're going to see. What do you think, Zev? Just more and more safety being built into the cars for 2012,
Yeah, I think.
or in the future?
Well, it's funny. I just saw a Jetta commercial today, and it was a very funny commercial. Basically, it was a kid when he was really young and different stages throughout his life, and he kept on going to, is this bike fast? Yeah, it's fast. Is this tricycle? Is this a moped fast? Yeah. Is this thing fast? Then he said, then you go to the Jetta, and he comes up with a baby around him. He says, is this thing safe? And it's true. I think the way what's going on or trending now is safety. Yeah, it used to be that Volvo was the safe car and every other car was the fast car. And I think
Right.
that has kind of changed. I think everything has
Okay.
become technological
Mhm.
and safe, and I think both kind of marry each other. So I think the trend is really improving that safety, and as we know more and more, for example, I think Ford was the first that introduced the whole idea of an airbag in a seat belt to begin with. I think, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
I think you're right also.
yeah, I think that I look forward to the day when we have the
I know
the,
I know what you're going to say.
yes, of course, the Demolition Man foam
There you go. The
car
whole thing's in a foam.
explosion thing. That's it.
Awesome. Like, oh my God.
But you know what? That may lead to us just doing it on purpose, just to see how cool it is. But
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
but no. But I look forward to having even more and more safety in the car. That's definitely something that's trending for 2012.
I can really agree. Well, that's it, guys. I mean, that's all the trends that Zev and I think will be happening in
Hmm.
2012. Stuff that we've thought up, we've seen coming out of CES. And it sounds like it's all good things for the consumer. It
Absolutely.
really is, and even smaller engines also for the cars, which lends itself to using less and less fuel to actually power your car, which is a massive, massive.
Yeah, in the United States, we don't really get that yet, but all
No,
the technology engineering that's going on right now, we're changing our minds about that. So even 2 or 4 cylinder cars are now starting to be as powerful as larger
the six,
vehicles. Yeah.
whatever. Absolutely. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much. If you got any ideas, your own thoughts on what's going to happen in 2012 for cars, please down there somewhere in the
know.
comments, whether it be a YouTube or on dadsontech.com. Just let us know what you think.
All right.
Bye bye.
Take care. As always, thanks for watching. Only cool people press subscribe. Right here. That thing right there. Drive safely.
Drive safe. Demolition Man. Oh no.
Oh no! No survivors!
It's the foam. The attack of the foam.